Hi guys, welcome back to Abby's Place, the place where no matter where you are, you can always feel a little at home. If you're listening on Spotify, welcome. Apple Music, welcome. And if you're watching on YouTube, special welcome because y'all can see me right now. As always, I am filming these visually along with audibly, so if you want to watch along on YouTube, I've got a cozy setup here. I've got the fireplace in the back. I have got my little drink right here in front of me, which y'all, I've been on a Red Bull kick recently, and today I'm switching it up and I'm doing LaCroix and electrolytes. Some ASMR, because I think this week I am very dehydrated. Guys, I ran a half marathon and I did my taxes. This week has been busy, okay? The last time I checked in with you guys, I was talking about how my Greece trip got canceled and now I'm gonna be home, and I was debating running the half marathon. I didn't think I was gonna do it. Newsflash, I did it. I ran a half marathon with no training on 2 hours of sleep and just vibes, okay? So I'm tired. This week has been a lot, but I'm happy to be back with you guys. So in this week's episode, we are going to be diving into my experience with the half marathon, what that was like, the ins and outs, going mile by mile. And then at the end of this episode, or I guess midway through the episode, we're going to pivot and we're going to talk about my OnlyFans. Yeah. A lot of you guys have been asking about that. When I did the Dear Abby segment, so many of you guys wrote in and asked about my OnlyFans, because if you don't know, I started OnlyFans about a year ago, and I have since had that be my full source of income, and it's completely changed my life. So I really want to share my experience doing that with you guys. So those are the two things we're going to talk about in this episode. First off, I just ran 13.1 miles 3 days ago. And I'm sore. I will admit I'm sore. Honestly, it's day 3 after post half marathon, so I'm really not that sore anymore. But I decided about a week ago to sign up for the half marathon, to just do it. I hadn't trained at all for it. I did not feel prepared. I am not a runner, okay? And when you look up half marathon prep training, it's like you should be running 3 5Ks a week and then a long run every week. Okay, that's like the normal amount of training. The most I've run in the last 2 months is maybe 2 5Ks. That's it. The most I've run, my longest run to date, 7 miles. And that was 4 months ago in San Diego. So I was not prepared for this at all. And you might be wondering, Abby, do you hate yourself? Why did you do this? Why the hell would you decide to do that? That sounds horrible. And to answer your question, I love a challenge and I am stubborn as hell. Growing up, my parents nicknamed me Tenacious A because once I set my mind to something, I will not stop until it is done. And I also get major FOMO. So I knew that if I didn't do this and all my friends did, I would have felt like I was missing out. So I decided to do it. And I want to let you guys know how it went, because it went a lot better than I expected. And I'm very, very, very proud of myself. But it was also extremely difficult. Now, a half marathon is not a ton. It's 13 miles, okay? And that might seem to a lot to some people, but I've done hikes in the past that were, 15 miles and trail ran a section of it, and so 13 miles didn't seem super overwhelming, but running that much consecutively is something I've never done, and I've never been a runner. I didn't even like Run Club growing up as a kid. Y'all remember Run Club? I hated that. I also have asthma. So it just wasn't a great combo. But I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And it's like, if I can do it with no training, then imagine what I could do with training, Anyway, so I signed up for the half marathon a couple days before it started. I signed up on Friday. The half marathon was on Sunday. So on Saturday, I was like, shit, I need to carb load. And so this is how I prepped for the half marathon, if you're interested. The day before the race, I was like, I'm going to try to get as many carbs as I can. However, oh God, I didn't even mention this. Friday night, my friend Kylie and I, also Kylie, if you're watching this, I'm wearing your jacket. You left it at my house and I am wearing it because it's cozy. So sorry about that. But Friday night, Kylie and I decided it would be a great idea to go out with friends. And so we went out to dinner. We both had a couple glasses of wine at dinner, and then we were like, it's Friday night. We should go to the bars. Kylie and I, why would we do that? So we decide to go out to a bar, and we go downtown in Bend, and we go to this little place called Velvet. It's a super cute bar. We get a drink, we're hanging out, and we meet these guys there. These guys are chatting it up with us. We're all having a good time. I'm the only single one in the group, right? Kylie's in a relationship. Our other friend that was there in a relationship. Me, single. So my options are open, and I'm having a great time with these guys, okay? So we're chatting it up, and we're all just like, y'all want to get out of here and go swing dancing? So after one drink at this bar, we decide to load all of these guys up in my 4Runner. There's probably like, I don't know, 10 of us. And we go to a swing dancing bar and proceed to have more drinks and stayed out till 1:30 a.m. And I don't drink. I don't drink at all. So, well, occasionally, obviously, I do. But I don't drink regularly. So I have a very, very low tolerance. So needless to say, the next day I was very hungover. And I needed to carb load. And I don't have an appetite when I'm hungover. I don't know about you, but the thought of food when I'm hungover sounds horrendous. So I got as many carbs in as I could before the race. I think I had like some waffles, I had pasta, I had a couple sweet treats, you know, just like trying to get it in, but I was so full by the end of the day. Anyway, the day before the race, I also did a little shakeout run that was just 1.5 miles just to make sure that that my body felt okay, that I wasn't going to get injured, and just to like kind of pre-race warm up my legs. So I did a little 1.5 mile run before the race, but that's the only running I did the week of the race. I hydrated like crazy. I was downing electrolytes and water, and I felt very hydrated at the end of the day. I texted my mom and my dad and said, hey guys, I'm feeling very scared about this. Can you send me a text in the morning for moral support? So they both sent me a little moral support text, which was really sweet. And then the night before the race, I could not sleep. I was too nervous / excited that I was up until about 3 a.m. just laying in my bed, and I was wide awake. And finally, I had taken melatonin, CBD, and what else did I take? I took something else too. Magnesium, maybe? I took another supplement. Oh, I took half a Benadryl. So I had taken my sleeping meds, and I still was not tired at all. I finally ended up passing out around 3 a.m. Kylie and I woke up at 5, and we got ready for the race. We did our hair all cute. We put on our outfits. We put glitter all over ourselves. If anything, we were going for the vibes. We get to the race. It was very cold. At the start of the race, it was probably 29 degrees out, I think. So we were freezing, but we did our little warm up, and all of our adrenaline was pumping, and we started. And honestly, the race went a lot better than I thought. Going into this, I was like, my only goal is to finish the race, and if I do finish, to finish in under like 3 hours and 20 minutes or like 3.5 hours, because I was expecting myself to walk some of it, to have to take like stretch breaks. I didn't want to injure myself, and I didn't want to push myself like way too hard and get sick or just like, you know, injured or not be able to finish. So I was like, I'm going to take it at my own pace. And Kylie and I planned to run the whole thing together. And then we had a few other friends doing it as well, but they were more accomplished runners, so they ended up going ahead of us. But anyway, my only goal was just to finish, and to finish at a relatively okay pace. Like a 15-minute pace I would have been fine with. So we start the race. Miles 1 and 2 were definitely a warm-up. It was really cold out, couldn't feel our hands. And the first couple miles of a long run kind of always suck. It's just like your legs are cold, your body's not warmed up yet, your lungs aren't warmed up yet. So the first couple miles were fine, but like I definitely was like, holy shit, what did I get myself into kind of thing? Because your girl hasn't been running a lot, obviously. So the first 2 miles kind of scared me because I was like, how am I going to do 11 more of these? But then as soon as we got to mile 3, I started to feel really good. I had a steady pace. I took my first goo. And it was pretty much all flat up until like mile 6. So miles like 3 through 6 were pretty chill. Like we were just having fun. We were gabbing. I put my AirPods in at like mile 4. So I did the first 4 miles with no music. And up until mile 6, I felt really good. Yeah, steady pace. And then the uphill hit. And there was a pretty big uphill section. If you know Bend, we went up into Tethero. So it wasn't like a ton of uphill, but it was more uphill than I've ever run because I usually run on flat ground. So up until mile 6 felt good. At mile 6, the uphill started. Kylie and I slowed down a little bit and the other people went ahead. And we just kept like a really slow jog the entire time. There were some sections where like I would kind of speed walk. I'm tall and I've got long legs. So my speed walk was Kylie's jog. So it was kind of perfect. But still, we never dropped below, I think, a 13-minute pace, which was pretty good in my head for not training. Kylie also didn't train either. So we were in the same boat. So miles 6 and 7 were pretty uphill, kind of challenging, lots of slow jogging. And then once we got to mile 7, it started the downhill. Miles 7 through 9 were so fun. And I was expecting to be way more dead than I was. At this point, I had taken a couple goos, a salt tab, and some Nerds Gummy clusters and just like tried to keep fuel in, but it was kind of hard to eat, you know, while you're running. I'm just not used to it. That's another thing that training helps with is like you should practice fueling for your races, but obviously I didn't. But 7 to 9 was really fun and downhill, and there was like definitely got the runner's high at like mile 7.5 when we were cruising downhill, and that was super fun. And my music was pumping, and I was just like feeling so happy with myself and so proud of Kylie and I for doing this, and just so happy to be there. Then mile 10 came around. Oh my God, I don't even want to talk about mile 10. Mile 10, I hit a wall. Mile 10, as soon as we got to it, I have never experienced that kind of fatigue before. It was this really weird fatigue of like, my legs felt fine. Like my legs weren't like jello or like tired at all, but it was like my body just felt really heavy. And I had a really hard time just like keeping my breath steady. I also have asthma, so I did take my inhaler a few times, but it wasn't really the asthma even. It was just like this heaviness. Like everything just felt heavy and sluggish and slow. So I took another gel, I think, at that point. And I didn't bring any water because there was a lot of aid stations on the route. And I wish I would have brought just like a little something to sip on, but it ended up being fine. But yeah, mile 10, the wall hit. And it was just, the most I could do was just left foot, right foot it. So miles 10 through 13 were kind of simply getting through it. And Kylie helped a lot with this. Kylie was definitely she had higher spirits than me at this point. I was just kind of like in my head and trying to keep going. But she was really encouraging. And I'm very, very, very thankful Kylie was there because she kept me going. And Kylie's one of my best friends. I love her so much. And I would not have been able to do that without her. And I would have done a lot worse without her. So shout out Kylie. In the end of the race, we finished in 2 hours and 51 minutes. This included like a 10-minute pee break and then a couple stretch breaks. I didn't pause my Strava at all. So I don't know like what my actual time would have been if we didn't take those breaks or if I would have paused it. I don't know. But 2 hours and 51 minutes was the final time. I felt pretty good about that. Our average pace was around like 12:30 a mile, 12:30 to 13. So that's not bad for not training at all. I felt pretty good about that. The most thing that I'm like taking away from this is that you can accomplish so much more than you think you can, because I did not think I would be able to run a half marathon anytime soon. Even with training, I was like, is that something I'll ever be able to do? I don't know. And I did it. And so I feel a lot more confident in myself after that. And I'm just really, really proud. Because that's an accomplishment. That's so cool. I've never been a runner. And I'm really thankful I did it. So afterwards, I felt okay afterwards. I'm definitely sore, but not too bad. Had a baked potato and a beer at the finish line, went home, laid down for a few hours, and then we all went to a friend's house for dinner. So it was one of my favorite days that I've had in a long time. So this is just a sign that like you can do so much more than you think you can. If I can run a half marathon with no training, imagine what you can do, you know? And like, I'm in pretty good shape, but for sure not a runner. So anyway, that was my half marathon. And after the half marathon, after I finished, I was like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing the half marathon, let alone a full marathon. A lot of people are like, are you going to do a full marathon next? I cannot imagine running another 13 miles after I just finished that 13. Holy shit, that was hard. And so afterwards, I was like, I'm never doing that again. That was a one and done thing. You know what I did? I signed up for another half marathon in a month. May 10th, I will be doing another half marathon. Apparently that's how it goes. A lot of people have reached out to me and they're like, you're going to be addicted now. You're going to keep doing them. Like, they're so fun. The half marathon is a really, really fun distance. So I'm doing another half marathon with the same group of people, and I'm really excited. I am going to train a little bit more for this one. But yeah, I guess I'm a runner now. I don't know. I just love a for the plot moment. For sure, I'm definitely putting that in my Hinge bio. Ran a half marathon with no training, because what a flex. But anyways, I'm a lot more confident in myself. If anything, it was a really good just reset button to be like, okay, Abby, you did it. You got your shit together. You ran a motherfucking half marathon. Good job. So I am stoked. And also it kind of like I've talked about my eating disorder in past episodes. But if you guys don't know, I had a pretty weird and extreme eating disorder for a while called AFRID, which is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. Along those lines, I can never remember the acronym. But basically, I was very scared of food for a long time, not even for the sole purpose of losing weight, but food was just really terrifying for me because I was afraid it would make me sick, kind of thing. So I lost a lot of weight for a long time, and I had no muscle mass. And me 2 years ago could barely walk up a flight of stairs. Like, hiking was so hard for me a couple years ago, and I would just be really weak and tired and out of breath, and I would be sore for weeks afterwards. And I had no athletic ability because my body was incredibly malnourished, right? So this was a really, really cool accomplishment because, like, holy shit, I'm so much stronger now. And I've gained weight since then. Obviously, I think probably since recovering or like starting the recovery from AFRID, I've put on maybe 20 pounds. And I've built up so much muscle. And even though I'm living in like a, I guess, bigger like body now, which I'm still in shape, but I'm definitely not as skinny as I used to be. I'm so much more capable and I'm so much stronger. And so that was a really cool checkpoint of like, look where you were 2 years ago, look how far you've come. So pat on the back, Abby. Not to just spend this whole episode flexing, but I'm just proud of myself. And I think that, I don't know. I think that this is kind of the start of me entering more of a what can my body do phase rather than what does my body look like phase, you know? Because I, after that, have so much more love for myself and so much more acceptance. And that's really fucking cool, okay? Now, for the next half marathon, here's what I would do differently, because I know a lot of y'all are going to be like, do you have any regrets? Do you wish you would have done anything differently? And there are a hell of a lot of things I could list about what I would change. Number one being training. Obviously, I wish I would have done a little bit of training beforehand, but I am very glad I didn't overtrain, because back in, September, October, November, I was doing a lot of running and a lot of training because this is something I wanted to work towards and like have ample time to, train for. So I was running probably 3 5Ks a week and then like a long run every other week. And I ended up overtraining and really straining my IT band. And if you don't know, your IT band goes from like your knee to your hip. And so my hips just lacked a lot of mobility and it put a lot of strain on my IT band. And so what I wish I would have done instead of doing that much running training is I wish I would have done 2 or 3 runs a week, but kept it moderate and light. And then done a lot more yoga and mobility work, and like functional work. So I've done like in the past just to work on mobility, and work on, my IT band issues. I've done resistance bands and stuff, and I wish I would have done a little bit more of that leading up to the marathon. I am thankful that my IT bands did not hurt the entire time, except for mile 10, they started to kind of ache, but they're not injured, which I am very, very, very thankful for. So I would say I would have trained a little bit, but honestly, I wouldn't have done a ton of running training, I guess. I just wasn't focused on my time. So if you're focused on your time, for sure, I think training is great because you're going to get a lot better time than I did. But I wasn't focused on my time. I was just focused on feeling good, having fun, and not getting injured. And I accomplished all 3 of those. And for that, I'm very proud. I wish I would have brought, like I said, a little bit of water during the race just to chase my goos down with, because there were times when I wanted to take a goo, but I wasn't near an aid station. And so I had to like drink some of my friend's water. My friend Heidi was carrying water, luckily. But yeah, I wish I would have just had a small water bottle to carry just to like chase the goose down, because the aid stations, like you kind of chug the water and you go, and the chugging was hard for me because I wasn't used to like drinking that much water at a time. I was used to sipping. So I wish I would have done that. And then also the sleep the night before would have been really helpful. I don't know if I could even control that, but I think maybe the night before the next race, I'll do some meditating, some yoga, and like just have a very chill evening instead of trying to rush and get a bunch of stuff done like I was doing that day. I think like having a very relaxing day would have helped with that. And then I definitely would have taken a Benadryl way beforehand instead of like as a last minute resort. I think I probably would take one at like 7 p.m. and then try to go to bed at like 9. So that's what I would have done differently, and that's what I'm doing for the next race. But overall, it was a learning process, and overall, I'm really, really happy I did it. I am bummed that I couldn't go to Greece, but honestly, I think that kind of happened for a reason. If you don't know the burnt toast theory, it's kind of this theory that every setback you have is leading you towards something better, or leading you in a better direction, or towards something that actually is meant for you. And so Greece didn't work out because I lost my passport, which I've never done before. Okay, I am the queen of setting stuff down and forgetting about it, but I've never done that with my passport because usually I'm pretty good about like important documents being where they need to be. So that's not like me to lose something like that. And I did. And I was really, really surprised by myself that I did that. But the next day, after like the day that I was supposed to fly out to Greece, I was sitting outside with Archie and I was like, thank you, universe, for having me lose my passport because I'm just so happy to be home. I'm so happy to be home. I'm so happy to be with my dogs. I'm so happy to be with my friends. And so I think it did happen for a reason. Obviously, I need to get a new passport now, but I'm just trusting the process. And maybe this half marathon is leading me towards something better. Maybe this is something I was meant to do. And, so I'm happy about it. Even though it sucks, I'm still happy about it. Oh, there's a squirrel outside my window right now. Archie would love that. Another thing that I accomplished this week, I did my taxes. Happy tax season, everyone. My heart goes out to you. Taxes suck. And I have just seen so many of my friends be stressed about them. I have been stressed about them for the past 6 months. It's been one of those things that's like been in the back of my head for so long. And I just have been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because mostly I didn't want to have to look back at how much money I spent last year. Oh God. And that was hard. It's hard money's hard and it's stressful. And I don't think I realized how much money is stressful until I started making it. Because for the last 4 or 5 years, I have been like making enough money to live on and pay my bills and go travel and have fun. And I love my job for that reason. But I wasn't making a ton by any means. Like I was making enough, right? And I definitely identified myself as like broke dirtbag hippie girl living in a van kind of vibe, right? That was my identity for so long. And even before that, when I was not in the van, I was broke as hell. Like your girl worked, like before I got the van, I was working 4 jobs at the same time and running my own business. And I still wasn't making enough for like the lifestyle that I wanted to have, But I've always been a hard worker and I've always cared about having financial freedom. It's always been a goal of mine to have that someday because I've seen how much money has put stress on my family and all that. So in other news, I paid my taxes. Ouch. That hurt. I never thought I would pay that much in taxes. And what a great problem to have, right? But when my CPA called me and he goes, okay, we have your estimate for, how much you're going to owe and we can file whenever. And I said, how much are we looking at? And he said the number. I said, are you kidding me? And he was like, I know. He goes, I know. So that was hard, very much an adult moment for me. Being 23 and making money has been a very weird phenomenon for sure. And the reason I made a lot more money last year than I did in previous years is because I started an OnlyFans. And I have gotten questions about this almost every day since I started it. And I have not talked about it really on social media very much. I don't even really advertise my OnlyFans on my social media at all. I do all of the advertising mostly in OnlyFans. And I try to keep it very separate because it's not something I want to identify myself with completely. There's a lot more to me than just that. And it was something that I was very, very, very hesitant to start for a lot of reasons, because as we know, OF has a major, major stigma around it. And I knew that. So to give you guys the full story, I need to take you back to a year ago. A year ago, I was in Hawaii with some friends, and I was going broke. Business was slow. I was in debt from my van build still. I had credit card debt I had racked up from the van build that I just couldn't pay off because of the interest rate. It just, every time I would make a payment, it would just compound on. So I would make a payment, and then the next month it would be at the same place it was the previous month. And I was really stressed about that because I had no plan on how I was going to pay that off. I was stressed about money, and I was in Hawaii with some friends, and we were all broke. I mean, this sounds so privileged, like, oh yeah, I was in Hawaii and I was broke, but like, we were scrounging. And funny like side story real quick. In Hawaii, we were supposed to have a free place to stay, which is why we went. The tickets to Hawaii were only like $200 round trip. I don't know how we found them for that cheap, but they were. We flew out of LA. For some reason, $200 round trip, sold. We had met a friend that said he had a house in Hawaii and he was going to house us for the entire trip for free, just out of the kindness of his heart, right? So we fly to Hawaii with the understanding that we are staying with this person for the next 2 weeks. It's me and 3 other friends. When we land in Hawaii, this man is not answering us. He's not answering us. His phone is off. He's not answering his calls, and we have nowhere to go. We are in Hawaii in the airport with no plan, and all of us are pretty fucking broke, okay? I had my savings that I didn't want to touch at all, that I could, and I did eventually have to. But we had no plan. So luckily we had one of my friends ended up being able to call their dad and was like, do you have any hotel points we can use just for one night until we figure out what's going on with this guy, because he is not answering anything. And, we were able to get a hotel for a few nights using his points, but we had no plan at this point. And while we were there, the friend that connected us with this friend was trying to get a hold of him too and just couldn't. So finally, day 3 of the trip, we get a call from the friend of the friend. And she's like, hey, so-and-so is in the hospital. He was in a motorcycle accident. He's in a medically induced coma. I just got a call from one of his friends or something, or a text from one of his friends explaining the whole situation, but obviously he won't be able to house you guys while you're there. And so we were like, oh shit, that sucks for him. If there's anything we can do, let us know, but where are we going to stay kind of thing now? Flash forward, turns out, we find this out after the trip. Homeboy was a liar and crazy, and he was wanted in 3 states for a lot of really awful shit. He never lived in Hawaii. He didn't have a house in Hawaii. He wasn't even in Hawaii when he told us this. He never got in a motorcycle accident. He basically just made up this extravagant lie for no reason. There was no reason for him to tell us he could house us when he never even lived there. I, to this day, do not understand why he did that. I think he had some kind of mental stuff going on, which I have no idea. But I think he ended up getting arrested because the friend of a friend ended up tracking his location and finding him at this coffee shop in North Carolina or something, called the police on him. It was a whole thing. But all that to say, I was in Hawaii. I was broke. We had nowhere to go. And we were there for another week and a half. And Hawaii is incredibly expensive. Hotels are $300, $400 a night. At minimum. Airbnbs are insane and really, really hard to find. So at this point, we're like, we'll just sleep on the beach, right? We run into a friend in Hawaii. And there's more I could talk about with this, but I'm not going to. But this friend did OnlyFans, and she had just started one a month or 2 prior. And we just got on conversation of starting the OnlyFans, and I was picking her brain about it, and I learned how much money she had made with it. And I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. I knew that people made money with OnlyFans, but I didn't know it was that much money. I had no idea that that's something that you could make easily, And this friend had a similar social media following to me. So the wheels start turning in my brain, and I'm like, damn, this could really change my life. And I had a lot of reservations with this at first because of a few things. I started social media 5 years ago when I was 18 actually. And when I started social media and when I started growing a following, I knew that I did not want myself to be sexualized on the internet as much as I could help it. You know, there's some ways that you can't control it. Men are going to sexualize you regardless. But I did not want myself to be known for that. I wanted to be known for other things, like traveling and living outside the box and being unconventional and all that kind of stuff. So I set that boundary with myself pretty quickly on social media that, like, if you look up my Instagram, you'll rarely find like a swimsuit pic or like a thirst trap or anything, apart from like the occasional naked river swim that just has like my back in it because that's kind of like vibey. But I've done my absolute best to not let myself be sexualized on the internet because I think it is a very slippery slope. It is very easy as an attractive woman to gain a following based solely on your attraction. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't have any disrespect for other women who do that, other female creators at all, or other male creators. Like, growing a following based on your level of attractiveness is fine. Use what God gave you, you know? If God gave you the brain of a rocket scientist, you would be a rocket scientist, right? God gave you good looks, you might as well use them. But I didn't want to use my body to get ahead in that way because I knew that it just wasn't what I wanted to be known for. So I was very, very careful with that going into social media, and I would rarely post anything about my body. And that is also because I have struggled with an eating disorder for a long time. And I knew that having random people give their opinion on my body on the internet was not going to be healthy for me. It would cause me to spiral real quick. You know, my weight has fluctuated on and off over the years so much. And to have that be up to the interpretation of a stranger online is not good for me at all. Because I just know I knew at the time one comment about me gaining weight or me losing weight or anything would make me spiral. Like, a comment about me gaining weight would make me restrict my food, and a comment about me losing weight would encourage me to keep losing it. So I knew it wasn't healthy for me. And my therapist also was a very big enthusiast on me not leaving my body up to the criticism of people online. So that was a boundary I'd set really early on. And I had debated starting an OF for a couple years, but it was just something that I was like, I would joke about, but I was never really serious about. And one of the main reasons was like, you got to show your body on it, right? And I already don't have great body image issues. I am like, in my head, I'm like, I'm the last person that should start an OF. And I know that that's not true, but like, your girl has a lot of body dysmorphia. So that was another thing holding me back, is like, I knew that starting an OF would discredit me in a lot of ways, and that I would look like just another girl who wanted money and sold out, and that it would change my life in a lot of ways that I wasn't going to be a fan of. But when I was in Hawaii and I heard about how much my friend was making and how it's just completely changed her life and how it's kind of set her free in a lot of ways, I started to reconsider it. And I was like, is this something that I actually could do? Is this my way out, right? Because I have enjoyed doing social media the entire time I've done it. And I'll do a whole other episode sometime about my journey being a creator online. Even though I'm not like a very large creator, I have been doing it for a while, and like I would call myself a content creator for my job, you know? But even though I enjoyed being a creator, it's not something I want to do for the rest of my life. It's not something I don't think I can do for the rest of my life, you know? Like, TikTok could get banned, I don't know. And so in my head, like, this was my way to maybe be out of the rat race a little bit and to use that money to pursue something that I was actually passionate about, actually interested in, and had the freedom to do, instead of just having this constant chase of like, when's the next brand deal? When am I going to get paid next? And I don't think a lot of people on social media also talk about, sometimes it takes months for you to get paid for a brand deal. Like, I did a brand deal back in October and I still haven't been paid for it. And like, that's how it goes. And so even though like you secure a brand deal in January, you might not get paid for that until April. And you kind of have no idea. Like the companies can be kind of sketchy. So anyway, I was in between stuff like that all the time. And I was just constantly living in terms of like, when's the next one coming in? And I felt like I just had to keep going with it. And even if you're not doing brand deals, you still have to stay relevant. So I just wanted to get out of this race. But the cons were cons for sure. I knew that going into starting an OF, my entire family would probably see it. My dad was going to see it. My mom was going to see it. My grandparents, everybody, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, everybody was going to know about my OF. And everybody from my hometown would see it, that it would take away opportunities in the future that maybe I wanted. In my head at that point, there's nothing that I wanted that it could possibly take away. Like I wasn't trying for any sort of like big corporate job or whatever. But I knew that like down the road when I'm 30, this might come bite me in the ass, you know? So I was well aware of these risks. And I also knew that launching this online meant that people were going to immediately only associate me with being a sexual object online. You know, people see you start an OF and they're like, she sold out. And I knew that a lot of my friends would lose respect for me. I knew that people on social media would lose respect for me. And I knew that it was a slippery slope, you know. But I had a moment where I was in Hawaii and I'm talking to my friend about this. And I was like, damn, even though I have tried my best over the last 4 or 5 years to not be sexual online, I still get messages once a week that are like awful from men online of them sexualizing me for nothing. I could post a selfie on my story and some man will slide up on it and say they want to do awful things to me, you know? And even though I have tried my best to steer clear of that, it still happens. And so I had this moment where I was like, you know what? If this is going to happen anyway, I might as well make some fucking money. I might as well get out of this. I might as well use this platform I built to make some money and get ahead with my life at 23. So I said, fuck it. I'm in Hawaii with my friends. We are night 3, our last night in this hotel. And I decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to launch one. And my friends were very supportive. My friends were super stoked, obviously, because I knew at this point how much money in general I would probably make from it. Because with the amount of followers I had, it was going to translate regardless. So I already knew that I was going to make all this money and it was really exciting. I had never made that much money before. And my friend set me up with some friends that were able to help me launch it, because with the amount of traction I would gain from it from social media, it was too much for me to just handle on my own. And also I had no idea how to do it. So she set me up with some friends that ended up helping me start this. And we had like a whole group chat together where we were, you know, if anyone had any questions or anything specifically for me, I would hop on and answer them and all that. But I decided to launch it. I called my mom beforehand. I was like, hey mom, full disclosure, I'm doing this. And I really would like your support, but I totally understand if you're not understanding. And, surprise, surprise, she was not understanding and she was not supportive of it at all. Makes sense. She's my mom. I would probably do the same thing if I was raising a daughter and she said that to me. I called my dad. He kind of said the same thing. He was like, I know you're going to do what you're going to do because you always do that regardless. Like nothing I say is going to change your mind, but just make sure you're aware of the risks. And I said, thank you. You're right. I'm going to do it regardless, but thank you for making me aware of them. So I got set up with this group of friends, this team we had put together, and we launched it. And I received a lot of backlash. The post that I made did really well on Instagram. I still have that post up. You can look it up. It's February of 2023. It's me on a balcony in a towel. And immediately, in the first 24 hours, I had made my entire income of the last year. And that was fucking crazy. And I was looking at my phone like, holy shit, my life is about to change majorly. and I had no idea what to do. And so my friends were so sweet. They bought me some champagne, and we popped a bottle of champagne to celebrate. And as soon as I launched it, I put my phone down and I didn't look at it for like 2 hours. And then we finally looked at it and we saw the income and we were like, oh my God. And it was crazy. And so that was the start of it. That day marked the start of my life changing completely and my identity changing. Like, I didn't realize how much of a shift in my identity this would be, but it was huge. It was a lot. So I started it, and at this point, the team that I had, these friends that I had made through this other friend, were helping me run it, and there was just no way I could have done it alone. And I know there's a lot of controversy with that, with OnlyFans. A lot of people hire like agencies and stuff to help them. And there's a lot of like backlash because you're not the person doing a lot of the actual chatting a lot of the times, but I was very involved with it. But there was just no way that I would have been able to keep up with it and not like ignore people all the time. So anytime they would have like a personal question or a like subscriber wanting to actually talk with me, they would just tell me and I would hop on and do the chatting, or they would text me and I would answer the question. And so it was still personal, but they were helping me out with it, which I would not have been able to do without it. And I still have help with it to this day, because if I was going to do it completely alone, I would have to be on my phone 24/7. So anyway, that was a big help, and one of the reasons I made so much money at first with it. And as soon as I started making that much money, as soon as I saw what was going on, I had to set some boundaries with myself real quick, because I knew that it was a really slippery slope. And I knew that I didn't want to do any full-on porn. And like, OnlyFans is generally a way to consume more, I guess, ethical porn, because you're getting it from like straight from the source. So, and you know, people can chat with you and get to know you and all that kind of stuff. But I knew that that wasn't something that I was comfortable doing. And I didn't know, the reason I hadn't started OnlyFans before is because I didn't know that you could do OnlyFans without doing porn. So that was a boundary I had to set real early on. That was like, okay, Abby, this is going to get really confusing really quick. And it's going to be really easy to let your boundaries slip when, you know, oh, I could film this video, or I could take this picture and make a lot more money. So I really had to be cautious with that and set those boundaries early on that said, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm not going to do. And to this day, I have not done any porn, have not done any videos or photos or anything with anyone else other than myself. And I still have not done full nudity, which I debated talking about in the podcast because I know that that is controversial, but that was another thing that I wanted to set a boundary with myself on, is that at least for the first year of doing this, I do not want to do any full nudity. And there were a couple reasons for this. One of the main reasons was that, again, I knew it was going to be a slippery slope. And then two, I just wasn't comfortable with it myself yet. And now that I've done it for a year, I have debated kind of opening it up more and doing a little bit more on there. But I've done everything else. So even though I haven't done like full nudes, I show a lot more than I would on like Instagram. And I will say it is not PG in the slightest. So I think that that's something that people don't really realize, though, is that your girl I haven't even shown my nips on there yet. You know, there are some like see-through stuff, but like I haven't done any of that. And that's not like a flex, because people who show their stuff on OnlyFans, honestly, I have so much more respect for them for doing it, because it's hard to do that. But I've managed to do it without, and I have a lot of very loyal subscribers that just want to support me and talk to me and see a little bit more of me. And yeah, anyway, I will say it is explicit for sure. Now on to your guys' questions. Do I regret it? Do I regret starting OnlyFans a year after doing it? And my answer is No. Even though it has negatively impacted my life in a few ways, I definitely have friends that I've lost from it that have lost respect for me. I definitely get hate on the internet. Every video I post now, every single video, there is always a comment saying, she's an OF slut. I get messages all the time that's like, you're a whore, you're a slut, you sold out, all this stuff. And you really, really have to have a thick skin for social media stuff. I have Reddit threads that have been written about me that are just horrible things. People message my parents. Anytime my mom or my dad comments on one of my posts, they get messages of people sending them my pictures. My whole family knows what I do. My cousins, my little cousins that are 13 and 17, they know what I do, and all their friends at school know what I do. And it's something that I had to be okay with before even starting. I knew that going into it, everyone was going to see, and that my sense of dignity was going to be affected. And I have always, as someone who has really prided themselves on not sexualizing themselves on the internet, this was a very, very big conflict for me. So in the end, I don't regret it because it has changed my life so much. I was able to take a step back from social media and not feel like I was constantly chasing something that I could never get a hold of. I was able to move out of my van. And that was another big thing, is I loved living in the van. But at that point, I was living in it. I was going on 4 years of living in the van. And I was living in it mostly because I really had no other choice. I could not afford to live somewhere else. And I also, my income relied on me living in a van. And I knew that moving out of the van, my income would drop, my brand deals would drop and stuff. And pivoting from van life, niche van life content, into living in a house would not work out in my favor because I had built it for the last couple years on, living nomadically. So it allowed me to take a step back and to be like, what do I actually want to do? And for the first 6 months, this sent me into a crisis. I had a major, major identity crisis with this. And this sounds so privileged, such a privileged problem to talk about, but this is just my honest experience. And even if it is a very privileged experience and a very privileged problem to have, it was still my experience. So I still am going to talk about it. And I feel very lucky to have these be my problems, but they are still my problems. So for the first 6 months, it definitely sent me into this big identity crisis of, who am I now that I'm making money? Who am I now that I don't have to live in a van anymore? That I don't have to be a dirtbag anymore? Who am I now that I don't have to do social media anymore? Who am I? Who the fuck? What am I doing? It has opened up my life to a lot of other things too, where I've been able to be passionate about things that I didn't know that I could be passionate about. So music has been a big one. I've had a lot more mental space to not stress so much about money and focus more on something that I'm interested in. And that has always kind of lit my soul up. So music has been a really fun thing that I have been pursuing since stepping back from social media. And I've also been able to set aside money for my future and all that, which has been really nice. But it caused a very, very big identity shift. So after I started making all this money, I ended up moving into an Airbnb with one of my friends for a couple months. You guys I don't know if you guys remember this era of mine, if you've been around this long, but this was last May. I moved into this Airbnb with my friend Avery. You probably know her, Avery Cyrus, on social media, and she's awesome. And so we were in this Airbnb together for 2 months in San Diego and just had so much fun. But honestly, I was struggling because I was like, what do I do? Who am I? What am I interested in? Who am I without this attachment to money? And this was really weird for a while because I started spending a lot of money at first, okay? I think that if anyone has gone through the same thing, you probably know that when you start making money for the first time, your immediate response is to spend it because you're like, oh my God, there are all these things that I want that I've never been able to buy before. And now I have this freedom and I'm making all this money. So I can just spend whatever I want. And I was 22 at the time. So I was just spending my money on whatever, which luckily there was no way I could spend the amount of money that I was making. But I was very irresponsible with it for a minute. And I kind of had to go through that. I had to let the pendulum swing. I had to go from being super, super tight budget to being able to spend whatever I wanted, to kind of land somewhere in the middle, to where now, a year later, I still live very comfortably and I buy things that I want, but I'm also more budget friendly in a lot of ways than I was last year, okay? And I also use my money in a lot wiser ways. Like, I have a lot of it invested, and I work with a financial advisor, and I'm trying to be as smart as I can about it, but it did cause like a very, very big identity shift that I didn't expect. And there's this one Rex Orange County song that comes to mind that's like, now you're saving up for something that just might make a change. It doesn't matter if you're making money, you'll always have your brain. And it's so true, because it doesn't matter how much money you make, guys, your problems are still your problems. And I thought this would solve all of mine. And if anything, it made them more prominent. So last year sent me into an identity crisis. The theme for 2024 was, how many identity crises can Abby have in 1 week? Okay. I was struggling. But I figured it out. I had to figure it out. So I don't regret it. I'm very thankful for it. I've been able to save for retirement, move out of the van, not stress about finances, and it's opened my world up to so many other things, and I would 100% do it again. However, I know a lot of people are going to listen to this and say, maybe I should start an OnlyFans. The only reason I started it was because I knew that my following would translate. So my experience doing it is going to be very, very different than someone starting it from scratch. And I want to drill that into y'all's head, because even though it's worked out for me, I've had it very easy, and I'm very thankful for that. I've spent the last 4 or 5 years building up a following, okay? This is not, the money that I'm making right now is not just because I opened up an OnlyFans account and for some reason randomly got all these subscribers. I've built up my platforms over the last 4 years. So I think of it as like kind of like a payoff after all this work that I've done. But again, it's still like, it's kind of unreasonable. But my experience doing this is going to be very different than someone just starting one randomly who doesn't have that following. And that's just me being completely transparent. So I don't regret it, and I would do it again, but that's my experience. So take that with a grain of salt, okay? Now, what everybody wants to know, what do my parents think of my OnlyFans? Because I get so many comments on all my videos that are like, your parents must be so disappointed, your poor father, your poor mother, they have to see you online like this. And I'm sorry to disappoint everyone. My parents love me. Okay. My parents and I have a great relationship, and they are fully supportive of everything I do. It took a while for them to be supportive to it, but newsflash, my mom is subscribed to it. Hi, Mom. I don't think my dad's subscribed, but I do know that he's been sent my photos from random people online who see him commenting on my posts. Like, he'll comment something like, as her dad, I'm so proud of her, blah, blah, blah. And then someone will see that comment and be like, here's her OnlyFans photos, you know? And they'd have to be okay with it. Like, at this point, there's really not a lot I can do about it. And luckily, I haven't I don't do porn, like I said, so they'll never see me in that light. But it's definitely an awkward conversation. Like, it's weird. That's a weird conversation to have with your parents of like, oh yeah, this is what I'm posting for random people on the internet. Sorry. My mom was very, again, hesitant about it at first. So was my dad. And they're now both fully supportive and love me regardless, even though it took time for them to come around. They have been really willing to try and understand it. They have been really, really willing to have an open heart and an open mind about it. And for that, I am incredibly thankful, because without their support, I would feel really weird about it. So my dad thinks it's sick that I'm 23 and financially free, and my mom is just happy that I'm happy and safe and healthy. They don't necessarily agree with everything I do, but they're like the most supportive people in my life, and I love them so much. Next question is, how has it been as a creator starting an OF? Have you lost brand deals? All that kind of stuff. And I haven't necessarily lost any partnerships, but I will say I do less partnerships now. And I think mainly that's because I just don't feel the need to hustle like I used to. But I honestly haven't had really any brands that have like backed out of a partnership because they found out I do it, because I really don't post about it on my page. I've only made like a couple posts. Sometimes I post on my story about it, but it's not something that like is a big thing on my account. It's in my bio for sure. Like, go subscribe, you know? But it's not something that I like advertise constantly. So I don't think brands really have an issue with it. But you know, that could be a thing. There could be a brand out there that saw my page and wanted to work with me and then saw I had one and decided not to work with me. So that's, you know, that's definitely a setback for sure. But the, you know, income that I'm making from OF makes up for it. As a OnlyFans creator, how has it been? I, again, am going to have a much different experience than a traditional person doing this because like anything, OF is a business that you have to market. So I have been lucky enough to be able to market that on my social media. But if I didn't have the social media, I would have to market it in different ways and I would have to probably be a lot more promiscuous with it. So personally, again, I work with some friends that help me with it when I can't get on there myself or when I don't have time. They, you know, kind of help with it so that, you know, if someone is messaging on there, they don't feel like they're just being rejected or ghosted or ignored. So that helps us kind of keep up the activity on the page. I take photos for it probably twice a week now. And sometimes I do like a full-on photo shoot where I'll put on like lingerie and stuff and pose and do like good lighting and everything. Sometimes I'll just take little mirror pics in the morning. The other day I did like a make coffee with me kind of video in lingerie. So I do stuff like that on there. And then I'll also do like, you know, river plunges where I'm not wearing anything and that kind of stuff. So that's like the stuff I've been posting on there. I mean, and there's also other stuff like if you're curious. And then I also have some, I think, collabs that I'm thinking of doing with some people and some other creators, which again, I don't think I would do full on porn, but it would be more saucy for sure. One thing that has been kind of interesting coming out of this experience is the ability to kind of express another side of myself in a safe space. So like, I've always been a very sexual person, but again, I don't share that on social media, but that's just always been me. I don't want to like talk too much about that because I think it can kind of get awkward, but yeah, I've just always been in tune with like the sexual side of myself. Okay. Your girl lost her virginity at a very young age. Don't recommend, but I was a horny kid. Okay. And the OF, I didn't realize that this would be a thing, but it kind of has been a like really exciting and refreshing way for me to have this other side of myself be praised. Like, I don't know why I didn't think that I would enjoy that, but I kind of do. Like, it's nice to get that validation and also to get that like energy expressed, you know? So that's another thing I enjoy about it that I really didn't expect to like about being an OF creator. And also something I didn't expect is I have a lot of female subscribers, which I never know if they're just like subscribing to me to support me on social media, which if you do, that's so kind of you. I get messages from people that's like, I don't subscribe to any like OF people or anything, and I don't like pay for stuff on there, but I do subscribe to yours because I just want to support you. Like, you know, because I don't have any like merch for sale or anything like that, or a Patreon or anything. Like my OF is the only way you can like directly support me apart from watching videos. So it is kind of cool that some people just subscribe on there passively to support me. And that's like, that makes me, I don't know, makes me blush. That's really sweet of you guys. But I do definitely keep it pretty tasteful. And most of the men on there have been actually pretty respectful of my boundaries. Like when I say I'm not comfortable doing something, most of them are like, I totally understand that. So that's been really nice. Obviously there are creeps out there. There are people that, you know, are going to say weird shit, but that's kind of what goes along with it. And you have to be okay with reading that and answering it. But again, I have my boundaries on there. With the female side of things, I have been debating. I'm like, damn, should I do some content for girls, like for female creators? Because I know a lot of other girls do that and that could be fun. Now, what everybody wants to know is how much money did you make? How much money did you make doing an OnlyFans? Because there are some creators out there making a ton more than me, and it's crazy. I have some creators or some friends that are creators on OF that make like, I'm talking like $500K a month I'm not making that by any means, but that's crazy. That's insane. Their taxes would be wild, right? I'm not making that much for sure. And I'm not going to disclose how much I'm making, guys. I don't think I owe anyone that. I don't think that I owe strangers on the internet, my yearly income. I will say it is about 10 times the amount that I have made that I've made yearly over the last 4 years. So that's wild. Again, identity crisis for sure. One thing though is it also made me grow up a lot. No one really tells you how to handle making that much money at 23, and it just made me kind of take a good look in the mirror and figure my shit out. So, and then the last question, am I still doing OnlyFans? And yes, again, I just don't post it on my social medias really. I don't post on my Instagram. I really don't post about my TikTok. Sometimes I make like silly little videos about it, but not really. I don't advertise it on there. I do most of my advertising on OF. And even though I'm still not doing like full nudity right now, I'm still doing like a lot of other things. I'm debating where I want to take it in the future. So like I set the boundary with myself for the first year to not do any full nude stuff, to let myself adjust to it, and then to reevaluate. So I am in the reevaluating process of like, do I want to open it up and do more stuff with it now that I'm comfortable on there? So we'll see. But yes, I am still doing OnlyFans. I still film for it all the time. And yeah, guys, my phone storage just filled up on my other on my other camera. So we're going to film the rest of the episode talking directly to you right here. So sorry about that. But I just do not have the time to sort that out right now. So anyway, in conclusion, with OF, it is my main income now. I do not regret it. I have had a very positive experience doing it. My experience doing it is going to be very different than a person doing it from scratch who has no social media following for sure. I plan on doing it as long as I can. And if you are thinking of starting one, okay, if you are listening to this and you're like, damn, maybe I should start one, definitely have a talk with yourself first. Know the risks. Know that the internet is forever. Know that this will take away future opportunities for you, and know your boundaries. It is a very, very slippery slope, and it can be very addicting to make that much money. And make sure you have a thick skin, because you have to. In general, to be a presence online, you have to have somewhat of a thick skin, and go subscribe. I'm like half joking. Even if you don't want to buy nudes, OF is a great way to support me. It's kind of the only way to directly support me, like I said, but that's been my journey with it, and it's been quite the wild one, but I will say it has completely changed every aspect of my life in a lot of unexpected ways. So that's my life as an OnlyFans creator. Hope you enjoyed all that insight. I feel like I just rambled a lot there, but that's okay. You know what? It's Abby's place. Sometimes it's kind of a mess, and that's okay. My brain is a bit messy sometimes. Whatever. Oh, okay. We are done with that segment. We talked about the marathon. We talked about OnlyFans. I'm going to end this because this episode is so motherfucking long already. So here are my favorites of the week. Songs. Need You by Penny and Sparrow. So good. This is one of my favorite songs of all time right now. It is so good. Going Somewhere by Frances Whitney. Just came out, I think, recently. My friend recently covered this open mic. A beautiful song, amazing lyrics. Next, Generations in the Making by Abby Pallage. Again, beautiful song, amazing lyrics. I love this song so much. Yeah, I think that's it. Those are my only favorites for the week. I'm going home this weekend to go see my family for Easter, which I'm really excited about. So I'm going to go see my mom and my grandma and all them. My friend might be coming home with me. We'll see. And I'm trying to think of anything else that I need to let you guys know about, but I'm pretty sure that's it. If you are curious about the OF, it is linked in my Instagram bio, so you can go check it out there if you want to actually have like a backstage look at what I'm doing there. But yeah, that's it. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming over to Abby's place, and I'll see you next Monday. Love you. Bye.